get ready to throw down.
Are we just rolling right now? Is this what's happening? All right.
Oh,
Well,
game on.
Welcome, everybody.
Well, I guess we shouldn't talk about your day.
No,
no.
absolutely not.
We
no.
already-
Wait, I was the one who said I wouldn't, and now you jump out.
I just thought it'd be fun.
All right.
Dick.
Let's
Dick.
do some crowd give back.
That's this actually.
Mhm.
We got a new review, and it was from
I just
Jay
got
Mossy
told to shut
22.
up.
Jay
No.
Mossy.
This is an awesome review though.
Yes.
So Jay Mossy, whoever you are, thanks for posting this. Right.
Thank you.
The review says, digging this podcast, love hearing the discussions from 4 different points of view and personalities. Because I know those same 4 people types are sitting around my sales team table each week as well. At the very end of it, it's a very long review. He talks about to go back and listen to the first couple of episodes because we take a deeper dive in the disc, but you don't really have to because we're doing kind of like a refresher on disc because it's been a while and we've all made some changes and some shifts and I've had a couple of people come up and be like, "You're not a C." I'm like, "Well, wait a minute."
So, are you rethinking the whole C thing?
I mean, it's not like a choice. I don't think.
I was gonna say, what? Rethinking it. I'm gonna choose.
Okay, Kung Fu.
Well, I mean,
you got
it's
It's the only way I can get out the tunnel, so I can live.
So I'm curious, if they are not seeing you as a C, what are they seeing you as?
I had a guy say that I was an I. We sat down, we're having coffee, we're chatting, and I was telling him about the show, and he was like,
Makes
"Oh man,
sense.
this is awesome."
No, that makes
I
sense.
present as an I, right? I'm very social. I have to be for all the networking and biz dev and this and everything else. But it's a perceived need to adjust, which is something that we haven't really talked about a whole lot. But the more you have to adjust from your natural state to fill a role, the more liable you're going to run into burnout and fatigue and feel like a bad fit, right?
I mean, absolutely. I'm an S, but if I'm around an certain I better become a D because I'm telling you, you will.
So, can I throw an idea out there
Please do.
that
Of course.
just jumped into my mind?
No,
So
this is gonna be awesome.
we have a disc, right, in the
Mhm.
4 quadrants. Is there the possibility that in the quadrant of C, there's another disc relative to how you sit?
Did y'all hear crickets? Because I heard crickets.
Took you a minute to get your mind around that, right?
I like it.
So in your little gaming world, or the little box of
Gaming world.
of analytics and playing
Yeah.
chess, and I
Okay.
guess because that's all analytics and
Yes.
very C oriented kind of stuff. Are there guys who are eyes in that? Like, I never say anything and you say so much, but we are so interconnected in the C realm, right?
I think so. I think there's a scale of all of this, right? Because while I'm a C and I've kind of shifted around, when I first did my very first assessment, I was way up in the corner. And when I took an assessment, not that long ago, I'm way more towards the D side of things because I have to be.
So now you're a wild and crazy C, right?
I guess by comparison, when I used to be a banker, we had a lot of Lockheed people, right? And so all these engineers would come in, they all drove Corollas, they all had like tons of cash, and they would never do anything with it because they were just so terrified of losing any money. And and I'm like, no, those guys are C's. Like I'm footloose and fancy free compared to those guys. But it's
Right.
all about scale, right? Because I'm not as footloose and fancy as you are.
No, but I'm
No
saying
one's as fancy as
inside
Al is.
each one of
Fancy? Is he fancy?
slow spin. please.
I
Does
just
that
had,
make
I had
sense?
Reba McEntire playing in my head.
What song from Reba
Oh,
McEntire?
of course you wouldn't know.
Of course I wouldn't know.
No.
Come on.
Sing it,
No.
Clint. Go ahead.
Hell no.
That's Melissa's favorite country singer.
We would have to pay a royalty, so
Absolutely.
please, you can
I
hum it.
I don't own the rights to singing this song badly. Sorry, so we got way off track. So
No, so you met with this guy, and he's like, "Wow, I misread." He seemed to think that, and I only threw back the preposition or the supposition is that in the world of C's, you've got people who are maybe just, it's these incremental distances from the sun,
yeah,
and in that little galaxy, you're sitting, further out. You got out to the stratosphere, and they are hugging the Bible of the C's, right?
probably so, right? And I think that within a couple of modifications along my life at some point, right? If I never waited tables, I probably would have been more attracted to like C-ness, right? But waiting tables is like, okay, you got to talk to people, and I was just home from the army and stuff, and so it kind of like puts me on this path of divergence from. And then eventually I get to the point where I take this job where I don't have to talk to anybody, and I make it half a day, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't work. I gotta have some people around me,
Okay.
So
Interesting.
in the grand scheme of things, I guess as far as the range of C, I could be more like my grandfather's a very big C. Right?
I have another question for you.
Okay.
Do you think your C'ism fluctuates? Like you run to the cave and it's real big,
Of course it
and
does.
then you
Of course
got to
it
start
does.
because that's that self-awareness, right?
Well,
But I
also-
mean, internally, do you feel like
I think it depends on who you're surrounded with.
absolutely.
okay?
Right. For
So
sure.
if you're in a group of, 2 I's and you're a C and they're out having fun and drinking beer and you're involved in that group, you're gonna slide that way because you just have to get along.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
funny because whenever you and I hang out and then I go home and I'm talking to Melissa, she knows you were hanging out with Clint, were you? And I was like, yeah. She's like, I can tell. And I was like, okay, cool.
He comes in
what
with
power
a
I have.
5 o'clock shadow.
Exactly. And a sidebar.
She's like, I think you've been with Clint.
but also when there's like stress,
you're
right?
covered in glitter.
The more no, and I smell like fear. But like the more stressed out I am, the more I go for like process orientation, right? Like
Okay.
process and task.
It's your
and
safety
task.
blanket, or it just feels good to wrap yourself in that.
When I get stressed out, I can't be creative about anything, right? And I don't have any empathy or anything else, right? When I'm having a bad day and my daughter is kind of looking for some attention or like, and I don't have it, and she gets upset. I'm like, what are you upset about? And then she melts down, and then I feel bad afterwards, right? Because
That's
like
why you should.
And you start searching for empathy. You're like, it's around here someplace.
Well, I don't have
put
any-
it over. Oh, there it is.
I don't have any at that moment. And so then she runs off, and then Melissa's like, look, I know you're a robot, right? But the
That's
kid doesn't
calling you a
always-
dick.
Exactly.
Thank
a
you.
little
Good
bit.
job, Melissa.
Yeah.
Hit him with more of that.
I need to be humbled, I guess. So the past couple episodes, I was not drinking because I was doing my clean January. That is done. So I am back.
Completely
I
forgot.
am back
No wonder.
in my
dude.
cups. Yeah.
Bro.
So,
Yeah.
and I did take my daughter to McDonald's. I've gotten a couple of
You're a
a
good
couple
man.
of texts and messages about that episode.
You're a good man.
They were all on your side, by the way. No one was on my side, but whatever. I'm used to that. So,
Heard that.
Wow.
so yeah. So I think there's very much a scale, right? Because we all know I's that are way more I-ish than you are,
Mhm.
right? I actually I don't know a D who's more D than Clint, honestly.
Oh,
Right?
that's easy.
Who?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I didn't say I knew one. I just thought
yeah.
But then there were people, especially S's, who were, and we've talked about this a little bit, and they're so good at
bringing you in,
what's that?
pulling you in.
Well, in chameleon, or that's not even a word, but being a chameleon, changing to, because like they want to be like so bad. They don't want to
Chameleonism.
rock the boat.
It's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
adapting. It's not
Adapting.
really.
There it
It's
is.
just adapting.
It's a religion.
There it is. I've had too much.
Crazy
It's been
one.
like I smelled this thing and I was
Yeah.
halfway drunk.
So
I thought of that.
on that
Oh my
point,
gosh.
when I'm around, let's say a couple S's having a conversation, and they're
That happens all the time.
I mean, it
I mean,
happens-
I could see where.
Yeah,
There's
in-
more
in
S's
my-
than
in-
anything else.
in my office setting, that happens all the time, right?
Yeah, it took me a minute
So-
to catch that because I'm thinking you're hanging out
Nah,
with them and
yeah.
like,
But
well,
like,
he's got to win, so he's like, "Come on, you guys can come hang out with me."
Yeah. well, I see them having this
Crushed.
conversation, and it's always interesting to me, right? Because it's a completely opposite perspective of the same situation that I'm
Yeah.
listening to. So I'm interested. Don't always agree, but I find myself starting to be like, "Oh, this is kind of a good feeling. I like this." And then
as
it
he
takes
goes
about
high tempo
Yeah,
to
exactly.
like
Yeah.
muck and the S.
but the thing is 20 seconds into it, I can already feel myself, okay, this is fun. Now it's not so fun. Now I'm uncomfortable. Now I got to get the fuck out of here. And I
Yeah.
always find myself bolting out of that conversation.
I never felt that way whenever we talk. I never feel that way.
Because I'm really good at
I was gonna say,
No,
I think
that's
there's
not
an
true.
answer for you, Nan, and
He can
just
handle
honest-
one.
Yeah.
It's just two.
Yeah.
He feels outnumbered.
But I think that's, to put this in a sales perspective, that happens to us, right? We can be a chameleon for a minute, and the further away from where you're naturally set, it's tough.
Let me push this at you. But if there's a greater reward
Sure.
for staying,
Oh, yeah.
So again, it comes down to this is a bullshit conversation. I'm leaving because there's no no economic value.
Yep.
But if you're sitting with two clients that hold the keys to the kingdom and they're both S's, what's Clint doing?
Oh, I'm being an S all day long. I mean,
What does this mean for your team if we're
Yeah.
able to work together?
I mean, absolutely, right?
Clint's like leaning in. Well, thank you for asking that.
so nurturing.
I feel so connected to this process that we're
You don't think I haven't said that stuff? It might not have been in the right tone, but they got the point.
but they bought it anyway.
Well, you don't
right?
think I can't be sympathetic for this shit? You don't think I got damn empathy? Yeah. I mean, but in all seriousness,
Lift your chin.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, I think that we all kind of we can become other people for a little bit.
You have to, right? I mean, or else you're going to fall flat such a huge percentage of the time.
Sure.
I mean,
one of the
There's
things
no way
that
you could-
I want to make sure that we're clear about is don't, and I think I said this quite a few times, but don't give up your strengths because you're trying to be somebody else. That's not
Sure.
what I'm saying at all. But the way you communicate it is what we're talking about, right? Is,
oh yeah.
I've got a strength of being direct. I can be direct to an S and not offend the S.
Mm-hmm.
If I say it like I would to another D, conversation is over.
So I picked up a new client, and they're like a very high I, right? And so we're talking about process and CRM and why it's important and everything else. And he's talking about how, man, he's like, I can get in any door, I can get in any office, and then like I don't have any follow up. And I was like, okay, fine. And so I started laying out kind of like what I do, and because I'd been kind of in work mode earlier that morning, it was probably a little bit more C-ish than it should have been, And I just look up and I'm like, what do you think? And he's just like, eyes are completely glazed over. And I was like, man, I completely lost you. And he was like, a little bit. What's the first step? And I was like, okay, the first step is like, we need to kind of talk about how you sell, And,
but you did recognize that, and that's the
for
important
sure
nugget out of that conversation.
Yeah.
But he was 3 weeks in when he lifted his
Yeah.
head. He's like, well, do we go back?
This was the fourth.
Do we go back to January 14th? And it's now the 7th. So.
And then phase 17A.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, okay. In all honesty, that throws me off. Like if we're going and you're like, hey, I'm like, I got the paragraph. Move down to the next big letter, right? The one in crayon to the left. Well, we go to B after A, right?
I mean, I'm with you.
I said 17A, and Clint looked like he wanted to flip the table. He was already over it, and it was like an anecdotal bad story.
Well, let me guess. You got 7 tabs on a spreadsheet to show me.
Exactly. Okay, thank you for that.
I mean,
because
yeah.
at a certain point, I'm
glad
like,
you do it. And that's the
Absolutely,
thing
right?
is,
That's the thing.
I'm glad you do it.
that's when I look down and I say, I have your cell number, right?
Yeah.
I
can
will
just
call
you at 2 a.m. when I wake up.
Call
and
you
I cold
anytime.
sweat.
Exactly. If this makes me like speed dial, bro. I got you.
I mean, you got to build your team that way. Because
Absolutely.
there's nothing more, when I go to one of my team members and I say, look, that's a hard word for me to say, team member.
Why?
I don't
like
know.
the
Just
member
like,
part of it?
because
you're 12?
It's like communism, right? We're all
I
at
don't
the
know.
same
Yeah, we're all-
point.
yeah.
You
Comrade.
elitist pig.
I don't know.
Quit. That just you
Wait.
you
No,
can't
no, I'm-
inspire me by being
No,
above
I
me.
meant like in my brain, it's hard to be like, oh, we're all this big lovey-dovey relationship. But
It's not lovey-dovey, I guarantee, under you.
got under her skin. That didn't.
oh yeah, baby.
She's like, you can't fake this.
But the thing is,
You cold bastard.
when I go to that
Mm.
when I go to that C and I say, and somebody asks me, hey, where's this information at? I'm like, well, got to go talk to that guy, right? And thank God he's a C, right? And thank God he's tracked it and made spreadsheets with color coordinated and all that stuff. Because I don't do that,
Yep.
Mine's in a notebook, in the stack of notebooks over there, or in my head.
Mhm.
We have an example of that happened just this week, right? Nan's out with a client, guy that we really he's going to make some money, and we're going to make some money with him. And go ahead and tell the story.
When I called you.
Yeah.
I had a busy week. So
She's like-
which
she's
one
like,
are you talking about?
I talked to so many prospects this week. I've been killing it.
Yeah, so I was all prepared. I had all my notes, like I love notes, and thought this whole thing through. Went in for a meeting that we totally had already talked about, had the whole agenda. I go in and he's like, brings up all this random stuff, and I'm like, all right, let me get Al on the phone, which I have never had to do that or wanted to do that, but it worked out really well. I think you have to pull in other people. And I think we're going to do an episode talking about how a team needs all different aspects. You can't just have all D's. You're going to fail. So I get Al on the phone, on the speaker.
And I knew the surgeon.
And it was weird. I mean, it felt a little weird, but it turned out great, actually, because we were able to do the bad cop, good cop thing. And I think that's really important.
But let me add some color to this. So Nan calls me, and I don't know, right? I mean, this guy wants some numbers, and I understand numbers. I could tell him codes, things that are relative to this sales process. But RC, who was, runs the show,
He didn't even want you pointing at him with that thing.
was out of the office. So then now I had to go into the I stall tactic of, yeah, absolutely, Doc. We want to get that together for
Good
you.
question. I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah, exactly. We just went.
No, he didn't say. I think people overuse the good question to kind of merge to the next thought. So.
But
I overuse it for sure.
But we ended up.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that.
Making that work. And on Monday, we'll deliver the data because we'll pull it off because, we have it, but it's just not in my department. So from a team perspective, I don't want to overreach. And when I go in and ask them to move this column over here, that column over there, hey, that looks great. That's what he asked for. Boom, it's back in his hand. So anyway, that's part of the
It is really important, basically.
discussion of how do you deal with things that you're not so capable of, or you don't have the resources.
Yeah.
Then you've got to have a team that can bring them to you. I mean, this is how the whole world works. Nobody does everything really, really well. And
that's pretty important.
And so I go in and I flip a light switch and the lights come on. And I'm like, every day we should all go, wow, right? That
You're welcome.
because there's some dude who makes electricity. I don't even know him. And it shows up as long as I pay the bill. And so when the lights don't come on, I'm like, did that guy die or did I forget to pay the bill? Yeah, I'm like, because the potential's there, right?
Well,
just saying.
So this is probably a topic for another day, but talking about that thing.
So you're bringing it up because?
Well, because I'm
bored.
I'm hyping future episodes.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Oh, foreshadowing.
Exactly, right?
Tale of Two Cities.
Leave the hype in the doc.
How do you sell it when your back of the house can't deliver, or if you have doubts about their ability to deliver, right?
Do you care?
I do a lot.
I know you do.
Yeah, I can't.
Do I care though?
No, you don't care because you're going to figure it out after the jump.
What's the greater importance? That you sell something, or that you take care of the situation of the people's feelings?
But I feel like you're wording that very intentionally to like walk me into a bear trap. No.
Do you do sugar or PCP?
For me, because someone was like asking me this the other day. We're sitting down, we're having coffee, and he said, I don't know if the people that I'm selling for can actually do the things that they're like telling me that I should go out and talk about.
Okay.
And I said,
man, get where you come from now.
That's rough. I would hate that.
Okay, so in my industry, if I'm selling something, I want to know how it
100%.
breaks. I want to know the weakest link in the process. Because there's ground zero that screws all this up, right? But if this group has ground zero here, it's a pretty similar ground zero over here too. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree.
That everybody has the potential to F something up.
I'd like an example. But like, what makes you even have that fear?
Well, I don't have that fear. I mean, I know.
You see the S on this jet? Oh, it's on yours. Sorry, Clint. I apologize.
No worries.
I know what I do.
That S is that little chick who ran over.
He can be S squared.
But it's kind of an interesting idea, right? Because like I don't think that I could work for a company if I had doubts. I wouldn't want to go sell. I wouldn't want to go have conversations and like kind of put myself out there as, hey, you should buy this from us, and here's why, and have an actual pitch.
That's where the eyes come in.
Exactly.
Well,
eyes
truly,
and Just trust me. Don't worry about that. I'll take care of you.
No, you guys know I don't sell that way.
I know you
don't.
don't.
We got to service it.
No, truly, whenever I was, when the surgeon was like, what about this? And I literally had never even looked into that. And so I thought, well, let me call Al. I wasn't, gosh, I hope Al has the answer. I knew that Al, he's very good at, even if he didn't have the answer, I knew he would know how to handle it. So that was really, I think that's really important, to trust the people you're working with. Know the parameters.
Well, somebody's got to have your back, or you're just out there by yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you don't, and when I say have your back, I mean there has to be a team effort where if you're not working with all the resources you need to be successful, well, then you're not going to be successful. Leave that company, go to another one that gives you the tools that you need. And if it's poor manufacturing, if it's poor installation, if these are key factors, you're going to consistently fail because you're selling something that people are just not going to be happy with. And that's a life of misery, in my opinion.
I agree.
Because there are a lot of fine companies out there that you can sell for. So if you have a skill set, you're a walking job.
Yeah.
Go someplace else. Quit with the bucket of misery. Unless you're the bucket of misery blaming a very good process, then screw you. You'll go one place after another until you've burnt all the bridges and you have to leave the entire industry for another one, and you'll burn them.
And I can tell you, I think that person that does that, where he's got 50, not talking about you here, John.
It took me a while to find my fit.
Yeah. He's got 50 things on his job resume, right? That guy, if he would just learn personalities just a little bit, who he is and who he's operating around, because that's usually what makes it miserable, right? I can't get along at this company. F these people. And you bounce, right? You don't ever give it a chance. And it's, to me, it's never truly about the skill sets, because most good companies out there will give you a chance. They train you, they give you some setup. It's what you do with it, right? You say it all the time. You fire yourself, right? I don't fire anybody.
Well,
but what these guys are really good at, the ones that are bouncers, is getting just to where they should grind it out, and they get there, and then the cracks start to occur. But they're guys with some bravado, so they take I did this here, and they start jumping and start pecking, and any phone call they've had, they're calling back real quick because this is cratering.
Well, and to me, that's work ethic and laziness, right? That's one side of it. The other side of it is you just can't operate around other personalities.
I think it's the ownership stuff. Right? Because I think that there's a layer to the whole disc thing, right? To where if you are confident or self-aware, confident, and you take ownership over the things that go wrong, right? Because it's super easy to cast blame on, my company sucks.
All personalities have to do that to be successful.
Get on any blog board about any industry, and you can see it in healthcare. Look at and it's hater, but hold on, guys, we know you. Those of us running around town, we know who you are. You cannot hide, because we figure it out, because you'll want to connect enough dots because you're a player, so you want to patch in who you know and how you are an opinion, why your opinion should count. And then if you're on the backside, you just discount the shit out of that.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with plenty of guys, especially in the Marine Corps, that are those high corner Ds, and they just burn relationships all day long, and nobody wants to be around them, right? Yep. And I've probably been that guy a few times.
For what reason?
It's just natural, right? Like, you're just kind of puking out your natural self and not giving a shit about any consequences or anything, and not realizing that other people aren't accepting to what you're doing, right? And you don't know that because you don't understand anybody else. But the step one of that is you don't know yourself. You're not self-aware. And I talk about that a ton as like just a complete dickhead D or a douchebag D, right? Yeah. And I look at that guy and I think, oh man, you got all the right tools. You've got everything you need to be as successful as you want to be. You've got strengths that it could take other people, and this goes for all of us. It would take people 40 years of self-awareness and trying to dig. Talking about the girl that sits in her car and won't go talk to the front desk girl because she's scared to death. Like, those fears, all these personalities have those strengths inside of you. And until you know what they are and learn how to harness it all, I mean, you're just a miserable bucket of failure. Walking around.
Do you think that in the military there's a lot of people who are trying to be a D because they feel like they're supposed to be? Yeah,
which is crazy. I mean, that's absolutely a ridiculous thing to think, but yeah, it is kind of pushed, I think, that you got to be this big tough guy, and then that just happens to want to coincide with the D, but
then you're also a Marine, which out of respect, because I was in the Navy, I mean, you guys have this persona, I mean, globally, meaning globally, of
and we chew on and we use it.
Yeah, right? No, what I'm saying.
That's true, but my ex-father-in-law was a Marine, and he was super, he was a D, but he also talked a lot about the teamwork that the Marines
the brotherhood, the Marines, you could not, I couldn't say, I would say the same thing. I talk about it all the time. I look at them as family. If I had compassion and empathy for anything in the world, it would be those guys. But I think they push that. They push that. But
Coca-Cola pushes an image. Nike pushes an image. the Marine Corps has every right to push that image, and then people emulate, right? You put Nikes on. Am I in trouble for using labels?
No.
Okay, thank you. I'm new to all this, guys, so excuse me. So, to make people better by that, right?
Yeah.
You dress better, feel better, act better.
It's at the end of the day, it's marketing.
Well, but also at the end of the day, it's the process, because I can tell you. So let me paint this scenario.
That's what sucked me into wanting to go to the Marine Corps, was that marketing structure of I want to be that fucking
sword on the commercial.
Not the sword.
No,
I was thinking of the guy that popped out of the water.
Okay, but let me actually just run you down this road.
Serious?
Yeah, I am for just a second. So you take a kid who's 18, 19 years old, right? He came from anywhere in the United States, pick good, bad, or otherwise. You bring him in and you put him through boot camp. And there's 3 of us that have been through boot camp here, right? Mm-hmm. And then you take that 18, 19, now maybe he's 20, and you send him overseas and you give him a gun and you tell him to walk up a very, very dark street and decide what happens next. That's a big process that has some really stellar results.
Interesting.
And by the way,
I've
been in boot camp, the parking lot of Kroger.
There's some levity to a serious topic.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking in my head, like, where would I label? And I do this a lot. Maybe we all do a little bit. When I think about DISC, I instantly go to movie characters, right? Where would I put these people at? And I think to like the White Earp that Kurt Russell played in Tombstone, right? Mm-hmm. Where's that guy at? Boom! I instantly want to throw him in the corner D. But then you start dissecting that a little bit. If you know anything about the movie, he's a pretty compassionate guy. He's a lover. He actually tries to not fight all the time. But that's where we go. He's the squinty-eyed tough guy that's silent, so you throw him in a corner that he's actually not in, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a misjudge of character. And, like a Johnny Ringo, he's the crazy guy that, I put him he's the dumbass D, right? Yeah. And he's foolish. And he's got all the strengths. He's a badass gunfighter, but he's not self-aware, and he thinks everybody should conform to him. So he's the dumbass, unaware guy. I
think White Earp is much more of like a DI,
probably,
right? like way more closer to the line, sure. Whereas like Doc Holliday in that movie specifically, the way that they portray him is much more of like an I.
Yeah, I was very I. Yeah, very much like I. I'm.
Yep, exactly. and he thrives off his own. He thrives off his own, caricature.
Absolutely.
So, but that's what I was thinking in my head is, maybe to help understand some DISC, kind of go through that in your head of what you portray.
Yeah. Or pick a movie and think about characters you really like.
I can't watch anything or have a conversation with anybody without running this through my head constantly.
Melissa hates it because I come home and I'm like, man, I was talking with this D today, and she's like, is it important? A year ago she'd be like, is it important that I know that they're a D? And I'm like, when I tell you how they phrase their questioning to me, you're going to be offended for me. Yeah. So yes, it's important that you know that.
Building family empathy through DISC. Because you know who I am, therefore you know what they were doing to me because of who they were versus who I am. Lord, shoot me, guys! Don't take it that seriously. But relax a minute.
But I will say that, even my wife, when I started talking about DISC a lot, she instantly wanted to know what she was. Mm-hmm. And so she took the test and she was what we thought she was.
No. But so this is how it went down. You girl.
Me man.
Glenn just walked over, got a beer out of the fridge and sat down. That's how your house runs, right?
Cook faster.
No, I've met your wife, man. She's a very, very
but yeah,
good woman to put up with you.
Oh yeah, no doubt. But she wanted to know more about it, and then you can kind of start seeing our relationship get better communication wise just because of that. I mean, it works in all walks of life, and to notice the 3 personalities of my children, between the 3, and that's not a D. That's a super S that, oh God, I'm gonna be screwed when she's a teenager.
I was just saying, is that your middle child?
Yeah.
She's a sweetheart.
I'm sorry, that's my oldest.
Your oldest.
The middle is probably super I.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say they're all sweethearts.
The boy is just like corner D.
Is he?
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Oh my goodness.
He's
I'm trying. So, but the thing is knowing all that information, I think I can help shape them a whole lot better, and help
For sure.
Well,
so I'm excited about and I get excited about those situations where, like, when it comes to discipline, I discipline them all three differently.
As well, you should.
I give them all props differently. It's just
in my business, we just started, and John can attest to this. All new applicants have to take a DISC assessment, and it's we have to front a little bit of money to do these assessments. It's not horrible, but we've been on the 2 hires off of the DISC assessments thus far. I have Melissa, not your Melissa, but my office manager. I've kind of filled her in, kind of walked her through a bunch of this stuff. We are now 3 months with one of our new employees, and she's amazing. She fit, and I had to decide which employee I was going to hire, and we hired her based off of her DISC profile. I never met her. Melissa did the interview. She knew the specifics of the position and what she really needed and wanted, and it has been a great fit because we knew where she was coming from, what her communication skills, all the above.
So that's really interesting because I think about maybe 10 years ago, I took my first psychological test, to hand into
and they let you out. When? I mean, how many years did that cost you?
You know I'm escaping.
John, that's what I was afraid of. Do a jujitsu crawl right around my chair. And a stranglehold is what I want to see right after that.
I wadded up that straight jacket and threw that.
It's in a bar ditch somewhere. That's why you drive how fast every time you go someplace. It's all beginning to fit, my man. Look, there's a pattern here.
If I could go 130, I'd go 130.
As fast as it goes.
But I took one of those.
Is that a speed?
Cruise control.
And it was all job related to how I fit in to do that particular task,
job. Yeah.
Right. And that's great. That's a part. Yeah. Right. That's
so many assessments for hiring, for sure.
Yeah. And that's what most people are geared towards too, right? Is they have you take this and they go analyze and they tell you, okay, well, you're a fit for this job, this role, but you're not quite a fit for that role. But what about the people that I'm surrounded with every day? How do I fit in that? Right? Yeah. So I qualify for the role fantastically, but then I come on board and everybody alienates me because our personalities don't match.
We took that into consideration with the DISC.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think that's exactly what I'm saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you. So you're going to say it's helpful.
No, so a ton of people qualify people for their role, but they don't qualify it for the personality side.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's why DISC is such a good key, right?
And there's a level of DISC to where you can do an entire team assessment to figure out like where you guys are going to like struggle and get along and everything else. But a lot of people only do the individual assessment.
Well, because I had Melissa do it first, so I knew what approach.
What'd she come back
as?
CS.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought she was more of a D, honestly. So
well, she's got to swing up towards D, but
to keep you corralled. Yeah.
Well, I'm like, that's that little fishing line I throw out. I'm like, because it's above me, right? So I'm like trying to.
It's not a D. That's just a pissed off C.
That's true.
And there's nothing worse than a pissed off C, in my opinion.
When a C knows their stuff, they come across very D-ish.
But I think it's funny,
and they anchor really hard, like it's the Alamo over there. Whereas you and I can say, look, we could butt heads all day long. Why are we doing this? Go pee in that corner.
We usually laugh at the end of it at some point.
I have blown up so many deals because I'm like, no, you are wrong about this one individual thing, and I have the facts to back it up, and let's go look at it.
John, I love you. We could have a jet airplane if you weren't such a dick.
I know. That's true.
Stop that, man.
He's working on it.
Hey, compared to when I work for you, I'm pretty easygoing these days.
Absolutely. And
it's funny because Al and I knew each other in Kung Fu.
So you're saying got humbled when he fired you?
Huh?
They just say, exactly. I don't fire anybody, guys. I don't need to.
Quit.
In my game, you're just not making any money, and you're seeing people bank, and it's just not a good fit. It doesn't mean you're bad, and not in this industry. Because if you got to medical sales, you got some savvy. Because it scares the shit out of most people anyway, right? Climbing up on roofs, roofing sales, all that kind of stuff scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Everybody has different fears.
Yeah.
For sure. So So I left and started working with Jeff, and then I would see Al periodically at the Kung Fu school, and then finally one time he comes up and he was like, "Man, where was this version of you when you were working for me?" And I was like,
Undeveloped.
"Well, wasn't there. I couldn't get to it, you know." And that's kind of how we got you to hear and all this stuff,
Right?
But
Because it's not where you start; it's where you finish, right?
Absolutely.
And that's a cliche. I get it, guys. So I'm full of those sometimes.
But I think but it's totally a true statement.
100%.
The thing is, with assessing all the personalities, especially with the people that are surrounding you, or if you're a salesperson in the sales room, the end game can come a lot faster. And I mean, like, speed it up light years ahead, the goal that you're trying to achieve.
Mhm.
If you just pay attention a little bit,
If you're aware of yourself and
just
you're
shut
aware
up
of
for
others.
2 seconds
Yeah.
and just listen.
Right.
Yeah.
Or in your
That's
case,
so true.
do the opposite.
yeah, don't overload somebody
Don't
with facts, and don't be so attached to like I'm right and you're wrong. Man,
or just don't
and-
be scared to take a chance and say something, right? Like because
Yeah,
it goes
That's
both
hard.
ways.
It's hard for me.
You need to learn how to say, "You're really stupid, but I like you." And
Oh.
so
I just think that about.
I
people.
know that goes through your brain. You're really stupid, but man, you're a means to an end. You're like a ground beef that goes in tacos. You're part of this process in my world.
Well, Clint talks about I do this eye thing apparently whenever I'm thinking
Oh.
about something.
I'm pretty sure I could whip your ass at poker.
See, but here's the deal.
And John's a good poker player.
No,
Maybe.
not
Not in your book. Well, we'll have
But
to
here's the
figure
deal.
that out.
right? You can tell that I'm thinking. You don't know what I'm thinking. Let's go, bro. Live on our YouTube channel that no one's going to watch.
Okay, okay, Hannibal.
Yeah,
Lecter.
like when I see that on TV, like professional poker,
Yeah.
I'm like, seriously? And I don't even watch
I watch
TV,
the
but I'm like,
shit
how
out of
does
it.
that
I do
even?
too.
Do you?
Of course I do.
Wow.
All right, so let's
Wow.
get back on track because we have been all over the place, right?
Does that surprise you?
Yeah, it does.
Interesting.
He likes to win.
But watching
Poker's a
guys
pure
play
form.
poker, I mean, I'm like, come on.
every
Paint
time-
dry. I mean, like the kid over there painting the wall.
Everybody
That's
around
great.
the half round table that wins, I put myself in their shoes. Like, that felt good. And then the next guy wins. I'm like, yep, that would be me if I was there. I always win at the poker table when I'm not playing.
Do you ever sleep? I mean, you're always watching stuff and doing stuff. I'm like, do you ever sleep?
He's a Marine. Marines sleep when they're dead.
Like, how many hours a night do you sleep?
Be
4.
honest. Yeah, I was just
Yeah, I
saying,
think
we all know the truth.
I
We just
mean,
want the
I'm
public to-
horizontal for probably 8. You know what I mean?
Sorry.
What?
Yeah, we
I'm
know
12.
what you mean.
I was just saying.
Yeah.
I go to bed. I just don't always
Right.
shut her down.
So I think we've pretty well encapsulated what makes up a C, right? Very fact-driven and
Mhm.
task-driven, right? Logic, numbers. We want to know the rules of the box, right?
Yeah.
Before we start. And that sometimes means that as a salesperson, if you switch industries or if you switch companies, you're gonna elongate that ramp up cycle because you're thinking, I don't know enough, right? I don't know enough about the competition or the offering or any of these things, and you want to check all those boxes before you start. I'm here to tell you that does not serve you. You got to just and that's hard for me, right? But you kind of got to get out there and you got to be okay doing some of the I stuff of like, hey, you might have some questions I don't have answers to.
Let me throw you a nugget there.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you're a C out there and you're thinking along those lines, just put that whole thing in your spreadsheet of how much quicker you would be to the win if you could encapsulate what we're talking about, right? Now you put it a part of your process and your formula.
Well, so my nugget for that is just set an expectation that you don't know everything, right? Hey, you might have some questions that I don't have the answers to. Is it okay if I get back to you? And they're of course
Which
going
is
to
your
say
safety
yes.
valve.
Right.
Absolutely.
that
And then I
makes
feel
you
okay. I have
win
no
and they
pressure on
win
me
too.
whatsoever
Yeah.
after
I
that.
mean, I just naturally do that.
Interesting.
You naturally do that.
Yeah, you guys do that just like
Yeah.
willy-nilly and like,
Right.
and you don't even express it, and you just expect everyone to go along with it and be okay with it.
And
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 I
you have a problem with the fact
Oh.
that people go along with that
oh
statement.
yeah, I hate it.
They're good
right?
with it.
Now, once I
I'm
say
a
it,
dumbass. Excuse me, I got to make a phone call. Are you okay with that if
Well,
I
like
get
I do.
back with you?
once I say it, and there's an expectation, and it's clearly communicated, I'm fine. I don't feel any pressure anymore. But
Oh, it's my relief valve. It gives me comfort to be able to say, I don't know that. That's on you, bro.
But Yeah, but eyes are they're so good at being able to say those statements without anybody and they always laugh, right? Like, I'm a dumb fuck. I don't know that shit. and you laugh at it.
Yeah.
Whereas when I say that, it's like, why is he in the room?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, same.
You're
same
killing
here.
yourself, right?
Exactly.
You're just like, oh, I'm done.
But there's that tactic, man, of knowing what you got in the tool chest.
So let's talk about eyes, right? I mean,
I think we just did.
well a little bit more, right? Because we're
Sure.
doing a recap,
Mhm.
right? You guys
Yeah,
can
I get that.
do you? You guys can like get into a conversation with anybody, right? Everybody wants to be around you.
But we still live in this little disc inside the disc, right?
For
Because there
sure.
are guys who definitely can engage better than I can, or ever probably will be.
Mhm.
You know, I tend to slide a little sort of D because I run a company, and so sometimes I get caught up with what's the best approach instead of just running with scissors and poking everybody's eyes out, right?
Yeah.
So I'm there's that little disc inside of a disc that we all have to be aware of. But yeah, go ahead with.
I mean, those are the big things, right? And the downside to that is, the more I you are, the more in that corner you are, the more you have this need to be liked, right? And that becomes problematic in sales, because then it's like, well, I don't know that I can set a frame because it's going to feel manipulative, so I'm not going to do that. But everything's going to be okay. Or I'm not going to talk about money because it's uncomfortable and I'm not supposed to, and you're not going to like me if I do, right?
And there's where you man or girl up on knowing that that's weak for you.
Mhm.
You know, that's hard to do. But if you can, that's your limbic system, that's your emotions. But cortically, you figure out how it's like people who fight addictions. Every day they have to make a decision to be sober.
Yeah.
You have to make a decision as an I to be strong and to be tough and to emulate things that don't really feel good to you to get the job done.
Mhm.
And then when you go home, you know, you can go back to your natural state. That's what I was talking
Yeah.
about, these caves that you come out. You come out and you have to be stronger than you really want to. And it's tough. I mean, I do
Yeah.
it every day.
Especially
every
in a
day,
sales role,
guys.
right?
Well,
Arguably
yeah.
more than anything else.
I mean, most like I had 2 of my sales guys are high corner eyes. I mean, and their conversations when they come back from a meeting is, it feels great, man. They are, dude, they love us. They're going to use us. I can't wait to do this job with them. That's their perception of what happened in the meeting. And my natural reaction is, okay, well, what are the facts? What are the details, right? Oh, I don't know. I didn't get into that shit. But it feels good. We're going to go golfing next Thursday.
You slide
Right.
so C, and I don't even think you realize that.
No, of course I do. Because I'm dealing with
You have
something
to.
that, well, I think you do in business.
But then
have to-
you need to fire those 2 guys because they need to be able to slide into, here's what went well, because how I chop it down, because again, that's that inside that disc. I come back, end zone dance is money on the table, right? Money in my bank account for payroll, which will be due this
But that's
week.
the D in you, right?
Yeah,
if you
absolutely.
if you
But
just
that's the
lived as an
slide.
I all the time,
Oh, have you seen me though?
Oh.
Make it right. You know, I got a lot of that in me too, and that is stupid as hell, but it's fun.
But that's
so
why
I'll continue to do it.
in that team role, like when you're asking those questions, you got to be able to ask those guys those questions in a certain way, and then be able to teach that guy to, hey, next time, you know, I need these nuggets. You know what?
He's like, but weren't we going drinking? Because it was
Well,
amazing.
But I'm look.
I got one, boss. You didn't hear me correctly.
Bro,
No,
you're
that's
not
exactly
you're not
right.
feeling me. Let's drink.
That's
It's on the
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. We will celebrate 7 times, and we still won't get a job.
Yeah, that is so
your
true.
carpet's worn out in
Yep,
front of your
absolutely.
desk, right? Because they're doing, look at
Yep,
me,
yep.
look at me.
Like, bro, you had one phone call.
And you're like,
man.
hey, look, there's a reason there's concrete down there.
I mean, it's so
you little silly
important.
bitches.
Yeah.
You know, so it's so important how you verbalize to them. You know, you can't just go, oh, you know,
Yeah.
you want to.
Or
just
you're
to be
feeding
nice.
them, right?
That's
And
exactly
on you.
right.
And that's on
You
you,
can't
man.
feed the
You
addiction.
know better.
I do.
Here's some more heroin,
Yeah,
Mr.
exactly.
I.
Yeah.
What? Here's a big old wow.
Yeah.
That, you know, let me put it. It's a little 2 characters. You go put it on your desk, and then you
that's-
tell them I said it.
And back to the disc. That's why it's so important.
I was
to
going to say it's
know.
even more important with me to you, right? If you come back and you say, "Look, I have a really good feeling. We connected. We're on a spiritual level." If you said those words to me, that's great, right? But you know,
We do have a defibrillator.
but
in
let
the
me
room.
tell you, it's taken me a long time to respond to that statement. Whereas before, I'd be like, "So you didn't get shit, right?" that would be my natural reaction. And now it's more like, "Okay, that's great. You know, maybe next time when you connect
Very good.
spiritually,
Yeah.
And that's
Let's
how we
find
all
some
grow.
stuff. Exactly.
That's when you make them hold their hands
And-
out
and
and you
then
go,
when-
I'm going to put this in this
No,
hand.
and then when you leave the-
this in this hand.
Now, when you
tell
leave
me.
the room, I might bash my head off the concrete wall.
Here's a piece of my scalp
Yeah.
because it's in this hand and my head hurts.
But at the same time, like, I probably do the same thing. Like, look, this guy's badass, dude. This is a badass company. We are badass together. You know, those are my words. And it's like, okay, but can we do any business together? You guys just going to go run off and
you're out of breath when you
jerk
walk
each
to
other
the
off
car.
all day?
Right? Because
Yeah.
there's
Exactly.
because the thing is that I's and D's are both like gut driven, right? So you show up without the facts that I'm looking for, and you're like, bro, I got this.
I got it.
Don't worry about it. I was in the room when it happened.
Dude,
We're
I promise
there.
you my gravestone will say that.
Yeah. Bro, I got this.
Hold my beer, watch this. I got it, bro.
Right? Because you guys share that major trait of gut driven, right?
Sure.
You're gonna jump off the cliff, right? Which is why there's so many entrepreneurs and guys who run businesses and stuff like this who are I's and D's, because you were like, I trust myself. I can be the positive impact on this situation. I'm gonna make it work, even without a plan, right?
And there's another
Without a
component
plan,
to
that
this.
is so true.
Well, I've got
Hey,
it.
4 fingers pointing back to you, right? Sorry. I mean, you want to
So-
there's a line
have
right
a
here.
plan.
Do not come across it. But the thought that I was trying to get to until I was so rudely interrupted was that on the sense of failure, we take it the same way,
I'm
right?
looking for a
No,
job.
you guys take it
a
harder
company.
because it's so much more of
Yes.
a personal
Oh,
affront.
it
It
is.
is,
Yeah.
and for
How
different
do you
reasons.
not like me?
The meltdown.
I'm like,
man.
because exactly, and I'm like, because Nan's seen me like go, are you kidding? I don't like to fail.
Yeah.
Was it to me?
but-
No, it wasn't to me.
No, but about how I get agitated
Well, then
about
make
Well,
sure
failure.
but not
everybody
as
knew.
much as
Well-
him.
well,
right?
like-
Well, I'm sorry. No. It hits you harder than it hits the D, because the D's like,
He's going to go
you know
on.
what? Fuck that guy.
Fuck that
He
guy.
doesn't know what he's doing. I'm
He
on to
does-
the next one.
He doesn't even exist. Why do I care?
Exactly. Whereas the I's like, this guy doesn't like me.
No,
Why
I'm
would he
like,
buy
fuck
from me?
this guy if he doesn't like me.
Hey, I
That's
got
your
one.
Oh,
D. This.
But it's
your
a
D
combination
Yeah,
because I'm like,
he
I
did
take it
totally do that.
personally.
And-
Whereas
Okay.
this guy goes, man, another, I'll eat some more glass. And I'm like, I'm tired of this shit. These motherfuckers, I'm
No,
leaving this industry.
That literally happened. I'm not going to go into details, but that literally happened. That's why it's so vital, because I knew him. And so I was like, all right, calm down, and left the room.
Was I in the fetal position?
You should have been, because it was that bad. And then I was able to, after he had his little temper tantrum.
Conniption fit.
Yeah.
Fuck you guys.
He was
Then-
taken by the
Left and right.
vapors.
And then he
Shout
calms
out to
down,
my
and
mom.
you can talk to him.
John, did I
know?
tell you how much I like you, man?
Oh my
You
gosh.
don't go down
Oh,
those
man.
roads, man. Is it on the spreadsheet, John? Thank you.
So-
I will give you +1 on my spreadsheet later on the night.
Mhm.
I was literally thinking how we would all jump out of an airplane with the chutes on, and what we would all think right before we jumped off.
Tell me.
DIS and C.
Tell us.
So John's jumping out like, you know what? I got all my ducks in a row. I packed that chute like 4 fucking
Yeah.
times, and I went over everything. There's nothing that could possibly go wrong
I've
here.
read 7 books.
Right? I've read 7 books and know how to do this. I went to training 4 times before I got in the plane.
Absolutely.
Right? Like all that's running through your head.
And I'm still going to go last because I want to see how you guys all do it.
exactly
Yeah.
right. So
And he has a
And-
spare. He
and
always
then-
has a spare.
and then the S over here is going to strap it on. She's going to like do her cross thing and pray to God, and then she's going to jump, and it's all in the Lord's
Well,
hands.
but she wants to jump with the rest of us.
Sure, it's all going to be a team effort, right?
Let's
then-
go the same time.
And then Doc is going to like slam a beer, throw it out the plane, strap it on, and
And he'll be
like,
naked.
yeah,
He'll be naked.
flaring out the window.
because I'm thinking if it doesn't open,
Yep.
his did, and I
Yeah.
know that I think I can fly
Exactly.
over and grab
The
this.
level of hope that's in there.
Yeah.
Oh, I
is
got
strong.
tons of hope, right?
And then for me, it's like I hope that guy that I paid to pack my shoe doesn't fucking hate me.
and you've got your gun ready
Yeah,
to like
exactly.
put one in the chin. You're like, man, it's coming quick. I'm doing this myself.
like-
boom, as it pops. He's
Okay,
like,
remember, he always diverts there.
Yeah, like I turn around and look at that fucking guy like, if this doesn't
I'm
open, I'll
coming
see.
back.
I'll
I'm
see
coming
you.
back.
I will be back.
It's so funny because this guy that I follow and you follow, Jocko Willink, he talks about on his podcast that he's like, when you're on the plane and they're giving you the safety briefing and everything else, he's like, I never think I'm gonna die. He's like, I look around and I'm like, okay, everyone else is gonna die, but
yeah.
I'm gonna make it. And I'm like, that's such a D
Oh, yeah.
trait.
If somebody planted a bomb right here, somehow I'm going to be floating through the air and everybody else is going to be pink misted. Like I'm still going to get a second chance, like tie my pant legs in a knot and hopefully it helps as a parachute. Yeah. Yep.
Wow,
That's
I
insane.
didn't know that.
So along that with eyes, right? When they manage you, right, and you're working under an eye, something you have to be aware about is they
Like to drink.
that well a lot of them like to drink, but they've got extreme ranges of emotional range.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
My staff has
right?
learned a long time ago.
The good days are super good and the bad days are super bad. And eyes are
And you
known for
feel it.
making for like overinflating everything. Like everything is like really great and we're gonna crush, or like, oh my god, we're gonna shut it down kind of thing, you know.
Well,
so but it never lasts very long, right? Eyes don't stay mad at people.
I was gonna say, there's the nice thing.
Yeah.
It changes, like, you know.
Is
Yeah,
that
open
nice?
the door.
Whereas
Feel
Whereas
the
me,
breeze.
I got a list. I'm like, oh, this guy did me wrong once. I know we're just gonna put this over here, you know.
Yeah.
Also known as a serial killer.
No, I'm glad I called
John's
that guy.
like at a desk, and you
Glad I
just
called
walk
that
up,
guy.
and he turns the paper and shows you how many X's he's given you.
Yeah.
Like, and he's like, not complete. And just spins it back around, and you have to just walk off.
Yeah.
And come back another day, right? Yeah, good enough.
And S's don't really have that big range, right? It's even when it's down, it's positive.
Yeah,
Even
absolutely.
when it's great, it's positive. Even when it's down, we're going to get through this together.
Mhm.
But they can be like passive aggressive.
Are you
Like,
talking-
Oh, for sure,
he's
they can
totally talking about
absolutely.
me. What
Well,
do you
no,
mean?
just
Well, they
just
can
the
be
S's
the-
in general, right? They hold
just-
on to stuff
Yeah, they can
Well,
be a,
because they
What is
pack it
this?
away.
What
I
does
was
that
gonna
mean?
meaning
say,
like
but-
they'll sink your
But I only
emotions.
see that in S's when you back them into a corner, right? And I think every personality,
Or they don't like you because
yeah,
they feel threatened
that's,
by you,
That's what I'm saying.
and they
like,
use that to
everybody
keep
that
you
gets
at bay.
backed in a corner has their pretty typical reaction. So I can't even
I'm
really.
like, hey, dickhead, how are you? Don't
You
hit
would
me
say
today.
that.
Do not,
Not
hit
in the
me.
nose. Not in the
gonna,
nose.
You're going to get arrested again. Clint, you're going to get arrested
Yeah,
again.
exactly.
Don't hit me
Yep.
because you never kill me. You just like you.
Wow. So yeah, so S's are known for being kind of like stamp collectors, right? They kind of hold on to this stuff because they don't want to address it because they don't love conflict. You know, it's my girlfriend is an S, and I'm like, hey, what's wrong? Nothing. Yeah, I know that tone. It's not nothing.
The
You
fact
just
that
don't want to talk
said-
about it yet.
The fact that you said nothing means something.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
let's-
No, I'm fine.
But the
Yeah.
fact that you push it and don't understand that she just needs
I do
to
better
be,
now. I'm like,
Okay, but I was going to say,
now.
so don't be a dick,
Yeah,
right?
we'll
I mean,
we'll talk to her
practice what
about
you
that.
preach. Practice what you preach.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been with Melissa for 16 years, right? And I've only been on this path for about 6.
I think she's been with you for 16 years, bud.
That's true. No, absolutely. I completely outpunted my coverage. I will admit that. But, for the first, before I started learning about disc, it was just like me trying to pressure her to be like me, right? And she's an SC, with a little bit of social anxiety and that doesn't really like crowds or
Sure,
people
she
or anything
loves
else.
that
And
you
so,
pointed that out.
she knows it. She owns it. She tells people like, hey, look, I'm going to tell you yes, but on the day of, I might cancel. Right. I mean, she gets it now. And that's awesome because now there's just like this expectation. So, but, for the first, the majority of our relationship was me trying to make her be like me, which was like not fair and kind of a crappy thing to do. And then I started to learn about this stuff and I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
We all-
So,
But
again,
to speak to
okay.
that, Nan's an S,
Mhm.
right? And she runs accounts that are very lucrative to our business.
Sure.
She has to talk finance to them. She
Mhm.
takes spreadsheets in. She knows who to call. So she's got a team backing her when she has to talk about things that are uncomfortable a lot of times with the client.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is
She does that now, right?
Talk to her.
Beginning, you probably didn't do that.
You didn't feel comfortable to do it.
Yeah. And because listen,
all right, you religious zealots. You're a
Well,
sinner. Now you know
no.
redemption.
I think
I'm just saying we're talking.
I don't know if I've been. I know that sounds weird for an S to
Oh,
say.
maybe. I mean,
I think I've
everybody's
always
different.
just been really tough. I think I just have a different mentality. Even when I very first started in pharmaceuticals, I was just tough. And
Here's what
I-
Nan is. She's pragmatic. Actually at the core, right? Part of
Mhm.
it's because of her faith.
That adds
right?
a whole nother layer to the onion.
But that pragmatic attitude allows her to weather the storm, right?
Agreed.
And not have her. I lose my shit. You want to hurt somebody, and you're just crunching numbers like a bitch. Like there's a reason
Yeah.
here. There's a reason
I
here.
put on my little green visor and I get out
Exactly.
my little
There's a real reason here. I don't know it yet, but I'm
Yeah,
working,
this
right?
means something.
As the ship's just like sinking,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And so where Nan's just swimming. She's just swimming.
Yeah, that's fair. And don't get the wrong idea if you're listening to this. If there's not any one bad compartment, right? There's not a bad section to this
No,
thing, right?
definitely.
And when you start to paint it with that brush, that's when you start to get in trouble. Like when you're selling, when
But
you're
does
managing other
any
people
real
or anything
adult
else.
wake up and not realize that there's lousy, there's good, there's better, right? And that we all exist in that realm. I didn't do this so well. I could have done this better. Wow, I actually did a good job within every one of us.
Think about how many salespeople you know who are doing a terrible job, but like can't accept any ownership about the fact that it's them.
I love that because they go job to job,
I
and
was
we're
gonna
all
say.
so much better. We got to have that, man. Some of you guys are going to have to fail out there, or it
You
just wouldn't be a
will
balance in the
have trouble,
universe.
yeah.
I don't think that way.
I do.
It's-
I need failure. to
everyone
grow.
has failure.
That's
Well,
what
no,
I'm
no,
saying.
no, no. Okay, so yeah, I agree that like failing makes you stronger and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But I don't
Well,
have
to
this.
to some people it
I
does.
I
Not
don't have
everybody.
this outlook of limitations that I have to win, so therefore you have to fail. Because I think there's
No,
enough business
no,
for
no.
everyone.
That's a whole.
Oh.
That's a
Yeah.
whole different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
and
that's
it's-
not where I was going with
Yeah,
that.
Okay.
I don't.
I'm like, but if you keep owning the, lying to yourself,
Mhm.
that's on you, and you just get to get what you get.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's right.
I mean, Christians talk about, you got to open your eyes, guys. Even in a secular sense, you've got to evolve. You will not be the same person you started as.
Oh man, I wouldn't be here if I was the same guy 5 years ago, and or 7 years ago now.
Everyone. I don't think. Literally, is there anyone
Damn
that?
sure no, I wouldn't be.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you have a glitch, and you go, oh, that wasn't a
And
good
you,
idea.
yeah, exactly. I mean, we all know that pathway. We just have to recognize it and be okay with your station where you're at and start to, because sometimes frustration just prevents you from going forward.
Oh yeah.
You're so frustrated with where you are that it just holds you
Or
down
it
like
makes-
glue.
Or
Well,
it
there's
makes you
also-
jump ship,
Yeah.
proverbial ship,
some
and then
people-
you are screwed out of a potential something that could have been grand, but
Well.
you left it.
Sure.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Be sorry. Why you'd be sorry? But no.
Well, you were about to say something. What were you going to say?
And she so rudely as an S does,
Yeah.
interrupted with that,
Trounced
that
all
like,
over the D.
She's just like, not till I'm finished. Stop.
Well, I think that a lot of people get stuck in failure because they don't know how to move forward, right? And so maybe it's just me, or maybe it's because I'm in the D category. But I always look at somebody that has done it right, And when I fail, I think, okay, I break all of that down. How did he get through it? How did they, or she or they? How did that group get through it? And I break all that down, and then me being me, I'm going to go train and work on that, not in front of everybody. I'm going to go back on my own personal time and analyze all that data, and I'm going to put it together. And then the next time I try it, I know that I've got a winning package now. And if it fails again, I reassess and I go again.
So, but what happens though when you're not as aware of the D versus all these other traits, right?
Well,
because
you think that you're not, the reason you failed was not your fault. That's a very unaware high corner D. Is it failed? Well, it couldn't have been me. No
Because I'm
way it
awesome?
would be me. Dude,
Mm.
I'm the reason that we got as far as we did. I mean, that's a very high corner D statement that's unaware. And I've thought that many times, still do naturally, but I know better to say, okay, now I need to assess the stuff and get back. I don't know that we need to do a throwdown. We can.
I don't know.
we
We've
kinda
been
just did
we've been
that.
going pretty deep. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know that we need to do a throwdown.
I don't either.
Yeah. We're getting the head shake from producer Paul, who's the real boss. So
Okay.
Team P. So yeah,
Alright.
so let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
So man, I don't even know how to do a wrap up without a throwdown. I feel so out of place.
Yeah.
So this was kind of just going over the segments, and we didn't go as deep into D, I don't think, but if you listen to a couple of episodes and you can't figure
I
out
was
why
gonna say
Clint is
he's
different,
pretty in your face. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
he's a little easier sometimes to figure out.
Sure.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think that the
There-
whole,
usually because you're running from him. Right? There's an indication he's a D, and you're just a big old wuss, right? Which would be me, right? I'm poster child. So
yeah, I think that the whole disc thing, you can break it down in quadrants and you can do all this stuff. Everybody has some different layers and they fit in some, and you adapt to others, and you see what you like, you go after that. You see what you don't like in yourself and you change it.
Mhm.
But the point of it all is to be aware of all walks of life.
Yeah.
And how to adapt to that, or don't. And if you don't, you probably shouldn't be in sales, right? And to
Mhm.
put that in perspective here, if you're not willing to
Or it's a short stint and then it's on to leadership or something like that.
Yeah,
and
sure.
you pretend that you were a salesman. So, all right, we know those guys.
I mean, but
when I was down on the rank and file.
Sure. And I think that change is probably a bad word because you're not trying to change. You just adapt is a good word.
Yeah.
Adapt to your environment that you're in at that present time. And you can't do that if you don't know what the environment holds, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's a relationship. If you're in sales, your leadership in a relationship, you're going to do better, to simplify it.
Sure.
You're going to do better if you know who you're dealing with and who you are. I mean, you don't go in blindly into relationships and into sales.
I mean, if you go to the rainforest and then all of a sudden it rains and you're unprepared, it's like, well, no shit, dumbass, you're in the rainforest. Like bring a fucking raincoat.
Exactly.
And you got to adapt to that.
Very good. I like it.
I had a client that I've been working with for about a year, just kind of like he brings on new people and stuff. And so finally he was tired of like turnover. And so whenever we first started talking together, I said, hey, look, you should check out these assessments if you're trying to grow a sales team, so that you know yourself and you know the people that you're trying to hire. It's like, no, man.
How big a company?
They do about, I think like 15K in revenue. It's a team of about 7. They do marketing.
Oh, so okay.
And
it's a month, right? Or a week?
Yeah, a month. Yeah.
Okay.
So and so he was like, oh no, these are too expensive. And so he went and did a free one for himself. And I said, okay. And he kept hiring people. It wasn't going. Huh? And so then I said, look, he's like, I can't figure this out. And I was like, well, look, why don't you let me kind of help? We'll do these assessments and everything else. And he had done one of the free ones online, and so then whenever I showed him like the full assessment that you get after like going through this thing, it's like 37 pages. He was like, why didn't you tell me there was all this stuff in here, right? Super D. And I was like, dude, I told you didn't want to spend the money. And he was like, well, I'm never not doing this ever again. And I was kind of like, okay, cool.
And even yourself, as a business owner of a couple different things, you've done that. You've made that mistake before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We had that conversation
we
one
did
night
have a
where
conversation,
it was just like, hey man, we fucking preach it every day and you're not doing that one thing that might be the missing
That's
key.
True.
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I'd start there.
No, for sure. Yeah.
And so, I mean,
we need to do an episode on accountability, how you hold yourself accountable.
Yeah. I'm totally down for that.
So anyway, just throwing it out there since I think we're
well, I won't have much to say.
Awesome. So
a lot of broken things in your world, I assume.
If you've been listening and you don't know where you are on this scale, or maybe you've taken a free one or whatever, but you think there's more to it, send us an email, assessments@salesthrowdown.com. We can get you hooked up. If you're sharing this, or if you're listening to this and you know someone else in sales and they're struggling, share this with them. Like, no one's got to be out there by themselves. If you leave a review, we will read it on the show, give you a shout out, because that's how we grow and that's how we get better. So thanks a lot for listening, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.